All right. Oh shit! How this is hot. Fuck. Ah. Okay. So we're gonna go to China again. Let's see what's going on by the finest of journals, as we know, Vox. So your face mask and your T-shirt, gasp, have been made with Uyghur forced labor. Human rights groups are urging major clothing brands to cut ties with the suppliers in the Xinjiang region of China. By Terry Nguyen on August 17th. So, for a little backstory, okay, Uyghurs are a group of mostly stateless, like, they're kind of like Turks genetically and, appearance wise. But they're basically nomadic. They're kind of stateless. They don't have a country that they concretely come from. And I think on the western side of China, there's a bunch of them just trying to hang out. And China's been doing some sketchy shit. There's like one leaked video of essentially like an internment camp for Uyghurs. Rumors go around that there's like human experimentation and what the hell not. And everyone's like, oh, China is asshole while wearing their mass manufactured Chinese goods. So, before we go on to the article, correct me if I'm wrong, but since okay, I remember there's like some kind of humanitarian effort by probably some United Nations organization that shut down a bunch of sweatshops in China. And instead of like, and they did that because it's a humanitarian issue. Oh, it's a human rights issue. We gotta save those poor Chinese sweatshop workers. Okay, well, a lot of them are
Where the fuck
teenage
are they gonna
girls.
go? Where the fuck are they gonna go?
Yeah.
What are they gonna
So
do now?
you take away the sweatshop jobs. What do these teenage girls do? They start whoring themselves out to pay the bills because you just killed their best job. Yeah, good job. You're sure a humanitarian hero, aren't you? In order to compensate for that, what Chinese companies do is that they's like, okay, well, all right, well, the Americans shut down our sweatshops, so we can't hire Chinese people anymore. So what do we do? They look over to the West and it's like, oh, well, there's a bunch of Uyghurs who don't have anything to fucking do with their lives, just taking up air in our country. So why don't we just put them to use? So it's they're just basically using the Chinese are using the Uyghurs, kind of like how the Americans are using the Mexicans, but I guess for a lower wage. I mean, I guess like the average Mexican makes like maybe a fraction of minimum wage, but I don't. I have no idea how low the Uyghurs are being paid here. Probably really low because of the market. People there are willing to work for very low prices. So, and that's why you're able to afford half your clothes. That's the ugly truth of it. You wanna pay three, four, five, 10 times as much for the same stuff? All right, well, then you can instate your little minimum wage and be concerned about human rights in when it comes to like manufacturing labor in China.
So they fought for those people's human rights by taking away the only job they can get.
Yep. And those teenage girls start prostituting themselves, and in the end, what happens? The Chinese just switch over to Uyghurs and do the same thing to the Uyghurs. Like, congratulations. That's like that's the pinnacle. That is a magnum opus of the UN. Is just stomping out a fire only to light two more on the perimeter. Bravo! So proud of you. Okay, so what does this caption say? A worker makes medical equipment at a factory in Beijing suburbs since China has ramped up mask production as a result of COVID-19. A New York Times organization investigation found that some of the masks made in the Xinjiang region possibly relied on forced labor of Uyghurs. Okay, so if it's like forced labor, then like that's even cheaper than sweatshop labor. So yeah, the people in China literally would have been better off if the UN just didn't fucking do anything. If we didn't shut down all those sweatshops. Like,
So now you have slave labor for your clothing, and
so,
the
yeah.
people who
So
were doing those
consequently
jobs are
speaking,
now hookers.
sweatshop labor is bad. So let's replace it with slave labor. Yeah, that was me clapping. Sorry, my noise canceling software cut it out. Anyway, An international coalition of human rights and advocacy organizations working to urge popular fashion brands and apparel companies to divest from the Xinjiang region of the northwestern China, where millions of Uyghur people have been held in re-education camps and forced to work. End Uyghur Forced Labor, a coalition of more than 190 organizations, published a call to action in late July demanding brands to formally commit to without withdrawing any supply chain ties from the region. Quote, there's a grave risk that brands and retailers across sectors are benefiting from human rights violations, including forced labor both in and from the Uyghur region, the call to action reads. This is especially true in the apparel and garment sector, which has been the focus of the majority of forced labor investigations in the region. It's not just t-shirts and jeans. The urgent demand for face masks also helps shine a spotlight onto these conditions. As Jen Kirby reported for Fox, Chinese state officials have turned Xinjiang, the province where the most Uyghurs live, into a high-tech police state and implemented mass surveillance programs in addition to forcibly detaining members of the Muslim ethnic minority group. Uyghurs inside and outside the camps are exploited for cheap labor, forced to manufacture and clothing and other products in safe for sale both at home and abroad, Kirby wrote. And in July, a New York Times investigation revealed how some medical grade face masks that are sold in the U.S. were produced in Chinese factories powered by Uyghur labor. For the coronavirus pandemic, the Times reported only 4 companies in Xinjiang produced medical grade personal protective equipment. That number had grown to 51% by the end of June, and at least 17 of the factories rely on the Uyghur labor transfer program. Okay, so hold on. Now, this article, on one side, it's saying it's forced labor. The other side is saying that these Uyghurs are for cheap labor. Like, cheap is not free. So, I don't know. Sounds like some headline tweaking. Let's keep going.
There's probably a lot more going on than what's actually being said.
Oh,
How big is this?
let's see what else it
It's pretty
says.
big.
I'll try to read faster if you want me to. Advocacy groups. Oh my fucking god, advocacy. That fucking word makes me cringe. Advocacy. Advocates. Advocacy groups argue that the problem doesn't begin and end with PPE manufacturers. They say that many companies rely on Uyghur workers could be benefiting from forced labor. In March, the nonpartisan think tank Australian Strategic Policy Institute published a report about detailing about 82 foreign and Chinese companies have direct or indirect ties to the Xinjiang region and beyond based on their supply chain. The quote, the tainted global supply chain that results from these practices means it is now difficult to guarantee that products manufactured in China are free from forced labor, the report concludes. Several corporations listed by the ASPI include Amazon, Apple, Dell, Nike, Nintendo, Uniqlo, Victoria's Secret, and Zara. And Uyghur forced labor is largely focused on its efforts to bring in the light to the potential of the abuse in the apparel and textiles industries. And Penelope Kritisis, Kyritsis of the Worker Rights Consortium, a group that is part of the coalition. The coalition's demands rest on the principle that anything that comes out of that region, whether it be garment, mask, or machinery, it can be tarnished by forced labor because there's no way to prove otherwise. Kyritsis told Vox. This is largely because of the surveillance apparatus that people's actions are monitored whether they're at work or they're in their homes. That makes it difficult for a worker to tell an independent labor investigator that the true conditions are. In the absent of that evidence, there's no certainty that weaker labor is not coerced. According to a report from the Human Rights Watch, the research Chinese authorities use a mobile app that allows local police to collect personal information data from Xinjiang residents from religious affiliation to blood type and height. Researchers also reverse engineered the app used by officials to discover that the system, quote, monitors people's relationships, identifying as suspicious traveling with anyone on a police watch list, for example, or anyone related to someone who has recently obtained a new phone number, and they can generate, quote, lists of people to be evaluated by officials for detention. So China is basically going full 1984 on these guys, but with the internet, nothing is private anymore. So I don't think the Chinese government is stupid enough to do something, let it spread around on the internet intentionally. Like this could be like it's possible that it's just maybe like some kind of flex in order to get people to obey, respect, or at least obey the CCP. But yeah, I don't know. Okay, here's the funny thing that America has always been like. Okay, so the logic that something bad is happening outside of this outside of the United States. Therefore, we need to go there and invade and fucking interfere with other countries' problems. That's the whole reason. That's the whole reason why. Well, actually, half the reason why the U.S. military was in Iraq. That's what happened. That's what we did during the Vietnam War. And what has come out of those? Nothing. Like again, we shut down the sweatshops only to cause these teenage girls to start prostituting themselves instead of working for the shitty wage. And because of that, because of the UN, and probably spearheaded by um, American Americans through the UN, the fucking I don't know UNICEF probably. Because of that, we have Uyghur slave labor. If the sweatshops were still running and American companies are still outsourcing their labor to Chinese sweatshops, the Uyghurs would probably I don't know they'd probably be just like deported, just thrown over the border to go elsewhere. But now they're doing slave labor, in exchange for some living provisions under the watchful eye of the Chinese Big Brother. But nevertheless, that's why. It's because America, because America does everything and gets all up in everyone's shit. So, according to a report from Human Rights Watch, Chinese authorities. Okay, no, I already saw that. Given China's standing as the second largest cotton producer in the world. Oh, that's funny. Get it? Cotton, slave labor. Haha. No. All right. Given China's standing in the second largest cotton producer in the world, many retailers and brands that sell cotton products might likely maintain ties with Chinese suppliers either directly or indirectly. About 84% of China's cotton is produced in the Xinjiang region, according to China Daily, and is responsible for about 1 in 5 bales of cotton in the global market. According to Jernigan Global, a company that produces global supply chain management between cotton producers and retailers, the amount of Chinese state subsidies directed towards the industry has created, quote, a modern mechanized cotton production operation that also has boosted production and quality, establishing Xinjiang as the heart of China, both China's cotton and textile production. As more reports about the human rights abuses in Xinjiang have been unearthed, international leaders are becoming increasingly vocal about the political pressure that should be placed on China. Political pressure. Oh my God. Vox's Kirby reported that the United States has imposed sanctions on Chinese officials and companies believed to be reliant on the forced Uyghur labor, including suppliers to international brands like Apple, Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger. Now, through major companies are being asked now, though, being major companies are being asked to account for the labor that goes into the supply chains, especially when the coronavirus epidemic brought greater scrutiny towards the relationship between suppliers and brands. There's a lot of unfairness baked in the structure of the global supply chains, specifically between brands, retailers, suppliers, Kyritzis added, acknowledging how the coronavirus has impacted these manufacturing relationships. From where we stand, if brands don't know where their cotton or textile comes from, they're choosing to not know. They must do their due diligence and commit to ethical supply standards. In recent years, consumers have become more active in calling for supply chain transparency among popular brands. Onus now falls on more heavily upon retailers, companies which have become eager to put out mission statements and campaigns on support of sustainability and ethical sourcing to please customers. Now that average Americans appear to be more informed about the Chinese treatment of the Uyghurs, major companies do no longer brush the issue under the rug. It has taken years for the international community to be vocal about the plight of the Uyghurs, said Peter Irwin of the Uyghur Human Rights Project. Oh my God, who the fuck is funding this? Oh my God. Now American consumers are starting to become aware of oh, gained more attention in the mainstream press. The fact that those labors touch the supply chain of global companies. Average American could very well be wearing a t-shirt or jeans that have been manufactured or sourced from the region or won't have flexible. Forced labor is just one aspect in the extension of the internment camp system run by the Chinese government. All countries like the United States, in Canada, and parts of Europe condemn China's human rights violations. The pandemic has made it difficult for some smaller states to speak up, or added. Many states were, quote, many companies or states rely on Chinese-made PPE and masks for their hospitals. In many cases, these products are being shipped to the West. The coalition is currently pressuring around 80 brands to issue a statement of commitment and map out their supply chain to show where they've cut ties with their Xinjiang region. Some brands are more responsive than others. Uh, I think the group has publicly released these companies are communicating with muddiness of supply chain. Muddiness of the supply chain, especially when it comes to apparel brands, makes it difficult for consumers to track and understand where the products are coming from, Kairitsis said. It's not the consumer's job to dig into a company's supply chain, although I understand they would not want their money to contribute to exploitative labor, she said. There are certain things that can't be changed by collective action, though, if the company is not willing to alter their supply chain. End of article. All right, well, I got 5 minutes to jam in some real quick points. First of all, when a company reports these things, the concept of supply chain is highly abstract. How far down do you want to dig through the supply chain? It is a total purity spiral. Most companies just don't have the time, so they'll just like report one level supply chain and just tell you, oh, we have ethically sourced products, and then jack up the price a bit, and then report that to the feds, then they'll call it good. Because you, as a consumer, are in control of the price. Whatever you're willing to pay, the price will be. Now, if other consumers, people like you, notice that there's millions upon millions of people buying goods using Chinese resources of material and labor. Good luck shifting the common populace's opinion on this. Like, for example, and especially this is a uniquely an American problem. I don't quite know why, but I'm sure it is almost exclusive to America. Americans want free money from the state, but aren't willing to pay the taxes for it. Now, same thing is going to go with like the interaction of the average American instead of with the government, but now with the same pattern. Okay, this pattern that you see of the relationship between average American taxes and government, you're going to see the same thing happen with the average American prices and corporations. Corporations will always choose to make the cheapest product. Now, if you boycott Chinese labor, the price will go up as you have to go elsewhere, either through Bangladesh, which probably has like similar conditions, Vietnam, also similar conditions, Mexico, which is they might pay a little higher, but I guess the shipping cost will be lower, and but the labor might be high enough to compensate for whatever you save through the shipping cost. So you're gonna go through all these places, and it's gonna be the same thing that happens, and then nothing will change. The companies would just play cat and mouse with like where they source their manufacturing. The other thing is that let's say if there's no other place for the companies to go, then the price of their products will go up. Now, if people aren't willing to pay for that price, then the distribution will become a headache, and then you'll have shortages. If you place price controls on the products for something as so-called necessary like a mask is, then you'll also have shortages because the companies will stop making these masks if they can't turn a profit. And since their business models have been molded after like this cheap Chinese labor for several decades by now, it's at the very least it's going to be like a several years long adjustment period if you really put some serious sanctions on them because supply and demand. If the price goes up, then the demand will decrease. So yeah, and don't think companies are just going to like see this. You know, the road to hell is always paved with good intentions, and these good intentions are about saving these poor Uyghurs. But in reality, until you're willing to pay the price, not just paying more for the product, but also dealing with potential shortages because distributors cannot afford these products due to the price increases that are caused by your so-called humanitarian efforts. Until you're willing to put those pieces together as the average consumer, these will continue to cause problems, and sweatshop labor will be sweatshop labor. I mean, these people are. Take a look at it this way: these sweatshop laborers are doing something very noble. They're basically they're committing themselves to slavery just to save you some money. So instead of fucking with that, why not just say thank you? The world literally runs on you and appreciate them instead. and keep them employed so they don't have to start whoring themselves out like teenage girls did whenever the UN shut down their sweatshops. You know? Or maybe you don't, because all you think is just morals, humanitarian crisis, and you have absolutely no comprehension of the consequences that happen afterwards by boycotting. I don't know, fucking boycotting Chinese cotton or whatever. So yeah, this is what business had to deal with. The shareholders and the customers are the ones that really dictate the direction of a company. The CEO is just a high ranking employee of the company, and anyone else below that is still at the mercy of all of the above. So the American consumer is who the one who's really in control. The American consumer is also one that's voting. The ones that I guess did, well, I don't know who organizes the funds for the UN. Like who decided to put it together in the first place? I'd imagine it's not something that's voted. But either way, it's just the whole philosophical approach to this is just it's just foobar from the bottom up, and nothing good comes out of it. So just fucking stop, enjoy the cheap goods, and get the fuck on with your life, and start worrying about real problems like inflation, this so-called economic crisis that the government totally caused, or Democrats stealing the election, or what you're gonna do when the U.S. dollar just goes through the ceiling. Yeah, but oh well. Like, you know, people give vegans shit for okay, like back when I used to dick around in the vegan Facebook groups, they had a similar like purity spiral going down here. So just making sure that the product that you're buying, okay, there's no animal ingredients in it, there's no leather or fur in it. Okay, yeah, you're good. But hold on. Nope, that's not pure enough. You got to check the company suppliers. You got to vet all the employees in the company. If any of them are not vegan, then nope, your product's not vegan anymore. Same fucking thing that's going on here. You got to make sure that all everything here is produced with like fair trade or whatever. Okay, well, supply chain level one is through fair trade. What about supply chain level two? What about supply chain level three? What about the thing that the fucking CEO said like 20 years ago? Oh, there's something wrong there? Oh, no, no. This is a racist company that's exploiting cheap labor from China. We got to cancel the whole brand and make everything more expensive for everyone else because we're on the right side of history. We're doing the right thing. Dude. Oh my god, people fucking.
That was probably the most powerful rant I think we've had yet from you.
I,
I like the way it built. It kept building till a climax.
yeah. I don't know. I didn't know I had that much bottled up. I just, you know. I would say it's not the most emotionally intense one, like the one about like the fucking gamer girls complaining about being harassed on Top Chat while basking in the profits of like tons of super chats and hundreds and thousands of views at once. That's what really set me
What
off.
the fuck do they have to complain about? Their whole thing is selling a slightly revealing picture of their cleavage.
Well,
Like,
you give them an inch, they take a mile. You give them $1 million. What do they want? They demand a quadrillion. Fuck, there's probably not even numbers available to how much they want, because human desires are infinite, and that goes either way. With infinite human desires on one side of it, you have greed that builds civilizations like capitalism. Let's to be frank, without greed, greed is like okay. Whenever people say the word greed, greed is usually like it's interpreted with a very strong negative connotation. But in reality, it's a aggressive nature in a businessman is the difference between a corporation and a small business. A small business doesn't want to get too big because they're all about like, oh, my local economy, my small town feeling, and that's why they don't get big. But if you're willing to throw away your morals for an extra slice of power, that's the difference between a small business and a corporation. At least methodologically speaking. There's a lot of business intricacies and technicalities, but whatever. I'm talking mainly the mindset difference between a CEO of a corporation and a mom and pop shop owner. So because and just to jam in another thing, morality is almost always negatively correlated with profitability. Morality or some other deontological principle that you want to go upon, reality, not just other people, but reality will use that against you to hurt your profits. And sometimes people just, I guess, depending on what people ultimately value, some people value honor or code or loyalty. Haha, that one movie reference. They they value these like moral essences more than their own success. Some people, they flip that ideology on its head and basically go for the maximum power for the minimum work. And that is basically that's what's known as slave versus master morality, or quote unquote morality versus Machiavellianism. And that's just a whole nother video in and of itself. But yeah, I don't know. You want to drop any thoughts? We're at like 26 minutes. What's
I
your
have I have no words. This is common knowledge that people make, like these people, these kind of people who would fight over, like, I don't know, like 50 cents in American money or some shit. I mean, they make your shoes, your shirt, and we're going to take away their jobs
like?
and give the jobs to slave labor.
Yeah, you sure help these sweatshop workers by replacing them with slaves. Yeah, brilliant.
I mean, if they really
Oh,
want to help them, why don't they liberate them from their country and have them form their own country?
well, where are you gonna dump those people? These people don't speak English. They barely speak Chinese. Last time I looked, like, I guess you're gonna,
Since they're so willing to do this, why don't they just take them into their country and just feed them?
but they won't because they don't have room in their house or they're a little busy. Check back next week. You remember that the Rebel movie video that they did in Canada when they're asking like people in Vancouver if you want to take Mo? Same fucking
No,
thing's
no,
gonna
no,
happen
no.
here.
They asked if they would take a refugee into their house, and they said yes. And then they brought out this big old fucking burly dude who was a refugee, and he was just kind of sad looking. Like, would
Yeah,
you
like
take
he
him in?
wasn't
They're like,
like
oh yeah, we know.
He's not
We
he's
don't
not
have
like
room.
he's not like an Arab Genghis Khan with like this killer scowl on his face. Like he doesn't have any long beards or grizzled hair, and he's not even wearing anything intimidating. He's just a kind of a big dude, but he just looks like really cold and really tired. And he just kind of weak, really. And even then, people were like are not willing to do it. They just want a virtue signal about like, oh yeah, we should help out refugees, and then whenever they're asked to, yeah, whenever they're asked to give a room to them for a few days, and then be like, "No, I'm sorry, I can't. My house is full. You can go ask someone else."
I mean, there's
It's
homeless
just,
shelters for a reason, but
well, even those we should get rid of because some people just like being homeless. They choose to be, and if they want to, just fucking let them. You're building this homeless shelter only for it to be trashed, and these people will be back on the streets again because these people don't want to have a home. Or at least whenever you do, they just have absolutely no adult agency to fucking take care of the place. So you're
the
just
thing
throwing
about
your money away.
homeless people is most of them are like addicts or they're mentally like handicapped.
Either way, I mean, see that's just a problem with morality. Morality is completely blind to consequences, and only whenever you make the shift of changing your own personal moral framework from intentions to consequences are you actually able to get shit done in your life or in the world, not just in your life, whenever you're like, running an organization or whatever. But until we stop putting intentions in front of consequences, we're going to keep seeing shit like this. And eventually, in a couple of years, the Chinese are going to do something else. Like, okay, well, now the Uyghurs are banned. Now the U.S. like, I don't know, abducted them or something. Now they got to find some other way to do it. So the only solution that would make both parties happy, both the Machiavellis and the business sharks and the fucking virtue signaling crying Karens on Facebook, the only thing that would join these two people together is automation. As soon as you get robots to do this stuff, I mean, first of all, it is going to be cheaper, at least not at least eventually. And then everybody will shut the fuck up about the moral argument. And the price will go down a lot because robots don't need anything. Well, other than the electricity to run them, which can get expensive depending on where you're at, but automation's the way to go. It's the only it is not only it is not only something that will make everybody happy and shut the fuck up about humanitarianism, but it will also make the price of everything go way down and everybody will become richer. Your dollar will go a lot further. In fact, maybe that's the only thing again that's a hedge against inflation at a macro level. Just dump your money into stocks at a personal level, but as a society, you start rolling out the automation, your dollar will get you more. So
We're at 30 minutes.
yeah, that was a good 30 minutes. I was pumped the whole time. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you like the content? Be sure to apply firm pressure upon the like button, and don't forget to subscribe too, because the fucking algorithm is pushing both of us down. So go check out Alcoholic Gaming and check out my channel. My name's Angry Vegan Cyclist 2.0, and yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, if you'd like to stop drinking the retard juice, you can simply go down into the description below and click on the link that'll take you straight over to his channel. He's got a lot of really good stuff over there. Take the red pill, make sure you're not a cuck, and we'll see y'all later.